Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am Tom Downey. Today we're taking a look at the suddenly alive Cincinnati Bengals playoff chances, their picture, their path to the postseason as well. As things currently sit, the Bengals, who were briefly in the 7 seed after beating the Colts on Sunday, well, then other games were played, the tiebreakers got applied, and the Bengals are now among the near the bottom of those multiple 7 and 6 teams. They're the 10 seed, but they are tied for the playoff race. They are alive after all the chaos that's happened. They are still in the mix thanks to 2 massive wins over Jacksonville and over Indy. We'll break down the tiebreakers, the path to the playoffs, and more. If you want the Bengals to sneak on in and make the postseason with Jake Browning, spam me for me in the comment section right now. Here's the general overview of where the Bengals sit. The massive blowout win over Indianapolis in Week 14 gives them life. Their playoff chances for now hover around 25%. You can run a bunch of simulations, get it maybe to 27% if you want to on the NY Times Upshot Simulator, which I like to use it because it factors in like spreads and likely outcomes, so it's a good indication of where you sit. 4 games left. Minnesota, Pittsburgh, KC, Browns. We will come back to those. What makes things so wildly complicated in the AFC playoff picture, and why a lot of teams, in fact, all these teams, have less than 50%, but more than 25% for the 2 spots behind the Cleveland Browns at 8 and 5 in the 5 seed. 6 AFC teams are 7 and 6 with crossover games to go and matchups here. The Bengals and Steelers both at 25%. The Colts at 44%. Houston 35%. Denver 48%. Buffalo 49%. It factors in remaining schedule, some odds, etc., which will change and they'll ebb and flow with a month to go. But look, I had written the Bengals off. I had said the season was over when they lost Pittsburgh because there's no way they were going to beat the Jags, and that was going to put them at 7 losses. They basically had to win out. Well, now, maybe not so fast. Other results the past 2 weeks have also very much benefited the Bengals, especially Pittsburgh dropping 2 games they should have won. It gives the Bengals hope. So will the Bengals make the playoffs this year? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on this video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Y for yes, N for no. With so many 7 and 6 teams, I do want to break down the tiebreakers here. Head-to-head always matters the most for 2 teams, is applied where applicable in 3 or more scenarios, but that gets a little bit more dicey. Division record will be applied, again, where applicable for, there's 3 teams in the AFC North fighting for a spot, for example. Then it's common games record, conference record, strength of victory, strength of record as well, which doesn't always get to play. Normally something ends up emerging there. Now, what's important to note when it's 3 or more teams, those tiebreakers then reset as teams are eliminated. So for all of these 7 teams, once one is out, they're going to go back to the initial set of the tiebreakers, which I think is very important and very key to remember. So let's apply those to the 7 and 6 AFC teams as things currently sit. We'll go with the odds, and you can also bounce to the playoff picture graphic here. So Pittsburgh gets the tiebreaker over Cincinnati head-to-head. So Cincinnati falls out quickly there, along with Indianapolis having it over Houston. So those 2 teams fall out. Buffalo and Denver then drop out of the tiebreaker with Pitt and Indy based on conference record. Buffalo and Denver are 4-4 and 4-5 respectively. Or sorry, they're both 4-5. My bad. Pittsburgh is 5-4. So those 2 teams just slide out. Pittsburgh then wins the tiebreaker over Indy based on common games. They're 5-4 against 5-5. That, of course, will change as the season goes along. Now, then you go to the 7 seed, right? Indianapolis. Tiebreaker over Houston. They fall out. It then jumps to the 4-way tiebreaker against Buffalo, Denver, Cincinnati because of conference record. Because Colts beat Cincinnati, but Cincinnati beat Buffalo, so can't quite go head-to-head from that perspective. 5-4, 4-5, 4-5, 3-6. Indy has the best conference record. Then the 8 seed, Houston has the straight conference record tiebreaker at 4-4. Better than Denver at 4-5. Better than Cincinnati at 3-6. For the 9 seed, Buffalo actually drops out of this tiebreaker because they lost to Cincinnati and Denver. So head-to-head actually applies there. Denver has the tiebreaker over Cincinnati with a better conference record. Bengals then win the tiebreaker over Buffalo. That conference record and some of those head-to-head stuff. You beat Buffalo, you beat Indy. You also lost to Pittsburgh and Houston. The Bengals are actually not going to win most of the multi-team tiebreakers. And in large part, it's going to, unless you get some good luck and you get, a three-way tie between Houston and Buffalo, or Indy and Buffalo, the Bengals are 3-6. 3-6 in conference play this year. That is not very good. All of their losses have actually come in conference play this year. So because of how impactful that tiebreaker will likely end up being in a multi-team tiebreaker scenario, the Bengals are just not in a great spot. So they're going to need some help down the stretch here. And we'll go into that more in depth here in a moment. But first, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. I'm a big fan of what Prize Picks offers. I got aggressive, did a Monday night doubleheader slate. Got it right with Raheem Mostert, but then Jordan Love and Jaden Reed laid oopsies. Mostly Jordan Love did. Reed almost got there in rushing, which was unfortunate because I had receiving yards. Either way, I am now 8 of 10 this year on my 3 picks. I like the flex play. Just got to get 2 out of 3 right. All you have to do to come out on top. So I'm great about getting 2 out of 3. Getting 3 out of 3, I'm only like 2 of 10 this year. So way better results from that perspective. You can also mix and match sports. Bowl games, finally just around the corner. You can mix and match those with NFL or just do bowl game slates. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. You can follow my picks this week. Lamar Jackson, more than passing yards. I know, but only 224.5 against the Jags. We watch what Jake Browning do, right? Jake Ferguson against the shaky Bills spine of the defense. Give me more than 45.5 receiving yards. And give me more than Tony Pollard rushing yards in a game that Dallas might have to run the ball with some windy conditions. Again, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. So overall, this is how the Bengals playoff odds break out. 75% chance to miss the playoffs, 25% chance to make the postseason. The 5 seed is a 4% chance. It's kind of winning out, basically. 6 seed is 10%. 7 seed is 11%. So more likely they sneak on in to the postseason. We'll break down what the Bengals need to have, what help they could get here, and what games matter the most for them, which will be live for several of those. But make sure you are subscribed. YouTube.com/BengalsTV. Free Bengals videos every single day right here on the channel. It's YouTube.com/BengalsTV. Don't miss out. Here is the remaining schedule for Cincinnati. 2 Saturday games, by the way. Home against Minnesota, at Pittsburgh in Week 16, which is a massive game. At the Chiefs, which also matters a lot, but you're going to be the heavy underdog in that one. And Week 18, if you're still alive, would probably be a win and get in or lose and get out scenario if you take care of business in some of those games up there against the Browns, who may or may not be playing for anything come that time frame. Here's where I'm at. You win 3 of those 4 games, you get to 10 wins, and you probably get in. There are some unfortunate scenarios in which you don't get in with 10 wins, but you're talking maybe a 5% chance at that time point there. 9 wins, you might get left home via tiebreakers. Maybe you just get left out altogether and some teams go on some runs, get you to 10 wins. If Pittsburgh remembers how to play football again, maybe they find their way to 10 wins there. It just makes it a little bit dicey. We're going to break down this key one against the Bengals Vikings here momentarily, but predict the Bengals record for me this season. Can they get to 10 or will they settle in at 9? Sound off in the comments section. Bengals are at home this upcoming weekend, Saturday, one of the flex games. They're actually 3.5-point favorites with a very low scoring game. By the way, over set at 38.5. This is a game that the Bengals can win. It's technically a Jake Browning revenge game as well. They are favored. It's also the quote-unquote least important game. In terms of the swing and impact of losing versus not losing on what it would do to your playoff chances, it would hurt. Make no mistake, it's a bad thing if you lose this football game. But if you have to lose, if you could only lose one of them, if I promise you the Bengals go 3-1 and you were to pick a game to lose, it would be this one because it's an NFC game. It does not impact your conference record, which is already teetering on the brink as it is. Here are the playoff odds swings with a win versus a loss. For each game, independent of each other, so other games impact stuff too. You win against the Vikings, 35% chance. You lose, 10%. So 25% chance, swing right there. That's the least of the three games. It's 40-8 versus Pittsburgh. You lose against Pittsburgh, man, it's going to be tough there. 32% chance. Chiefs, it's actually moved up more. You upset Kansas City, means you're probably playing good football. It's going to go a long way in conference record, and you win the game you weren't supposed to win. You're probably going to win a few of those other ones there. That's why it's 50%. 18%, so you expected to lose. That's why it doesn't go down as much. Browns, 41% versus 10%, which will again be heavily impacted by what else happens in these three games. So who you got winning this Saturday? B for the Bengals, V for the Vikings. Sound off in the comments section right now. It's a B or a V. Before we go, we will have the Bengals Week 15 rooting guide for you. A lot of games. You will notice the swing here as well of win versus loss. Nothing that drastic, but does help you if those teams win. Bears over the Browns helps you out. Lions over Broncos helps you significantly. You are cheering for the Colts over the Steelers because of head-to-head, because you still play Pittsburgh as well. Not as impactful of a game because one team still wins to help their playoff chances. Titans over Texans. Cowboys over Bills. And you are actually cheering for the Ravens over the Jags in the outside scenario in which Houston or Indy go on a run and the Jags fall back to the wild card race. You would have a head-to-head tiebreaker over them in that scenario. So you actually are kind of cheering for, Jacksonville to kind of fall apart maybe, and maybe Houston get the AFC South since that takes them out of the head-to-head wild card race. It's a bit unlikely, but I did want to make note of it at least because it does impact by more than 2%.